What happens when you're forced to battle your best friend for something you've both worked your entire lives for? Taylor Fritz and Frances Tiafoe found themselves in this exact position at the US Open semifinals. What's it like to compete against someone you care about? And how does it change the game? In this video, we're going to dig deep into this unique dilemma by examining several rivalries with tennis players who are best friends and answering 3 key questions. How do tennis players really feel about competing against their friends? Why are these matches between friends so emotionally complex and often less competitive? What happens when friendships, built over years of trust and camaraderie, face the ultimate test of a high-stakes match? Stick around as we explore the fine line between friendship and rivalry in the world of professional tennis. In a candid interview before Wimbledon, Fritz admitted, "I hate it when it comes to playing his friends." He's had to do it many times, and although his record is good, the situation makes him uncomfortable. It's hard to go all in when the person across the net isn't just an opponent, but a close friend. For Fritz, this scenario became all too real at the 2024 US Open, where he faced off against his longtime friend, Frances Tiafoe, in the semifinals. Fritz and Tiafoe have known each other since their teens. They grew up competing on the junior circuit, and over time became both rivals and best friends. When they found themselves set to face off in the US Open semifinals, it wasn't just any match. It was a career-defining moment. Both were competing for the first appearance in a Grand Slam final, and they had to do it against someone they shared years of history with. At first, Fritz was uneasy about it, but his mindset started to shift. After beating Alexander Zverev in 4 sets to reach the semis, Fritz reflected on how things had changed for him. "It's going to be a lot of fun," he said. The prospect of facing Tiafoe no longer seemed like a burden, but an opportunity. Imagine being on the court, staring down your best friend on the other side of the net, with a Grand Slam final on the line. What do you feel? Fritz's feelings are mixed. He's got a good track record in matches against friends, but the emotional side always weighs on him. As much as he tries to view it as just another match, there's always the underlying discomfort. When playing a friend, you know it's more than just about winning. It's about respecting the relationship too. Fritz's struggles highlights the inner conflict athletes face in situations like this. You have to block out those personal feelings to focus on the game. But it's never that easy when you know the person on the other side so well. Why are these matches between friends so emotionally complex? Tennis isn't a team sport. It's one-on-one. And for many players, their friends are their lifeline on the tour. So what happens when that lifeline becomes your opponent? Players like Jack Draper and Jannik Sinner know the feeling all too well. Draper faced Sinner in the US Open semifinals, just like Tiafoe and Fritz. And they've been friends since their junior days as well. Draper explained that it's tough to find friends in tennis, so when you do, those relationships mean a lot. He said, "Playing such an intense sport, both physically and emotionally, we don't have that many friends. That makes it harder when you're suddenly forced to compete against one of the few people you rely on. It's not just about winning or losing. It's about the emotional toll it takes. You've shared laughs, dinners, and practices with this person. But when the match starts, none of that matters." These matches put an emotional strain on players that fans don't often see. While we focus on the competition, the players are grappling with the idea of beating someone they care about deeply, or losing. Let's look at another famous rivalry, Serena and Venus Williams. Their sibling bond added a layer of complexity that most players will never experience. When Serena and Venus faced off, their matches often lacked the intensity of other rivalries. simply because their emotional connection ran so deep. The same thing happens with many close friendships on tour. Take Daniil Medvedev and Andrey Rublev. Medvedev has an 8-2 head-to-head lead over Rublev, and their dynamic on the court reflects a big brother-little brother relationship. Medvedev acknowledged how awkward it feels to beat a friend, saying if you win, you definitely aren't going to be the first one to talk. Friendships evolve with competition, and sometimes they cool down, like Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova's relationship. Navratilova went on a 13-match win streak against Evert, which eventually caused their friendship to suffer. Evert realized their closeness was affecting her game and had to distance herself to stay competitive. Friendships in tennis, even the strongest ones, can change when a Grand Slam title is at stake. What starts as camaraderie can become rivalry when the match begins. The US Open final in 2017 between Madison Keys and Sloane Stephens is a prime example of friendship being put to the test on the court. Keys and Stephens were childhood friends, but when they met in the final, Stephens ran away with the match, winning 6-3, 6-love. Afterwards, Keys said something that reveals the emotional complexity of these matchups. Sloane is truly one of my favorite people. If I'm going to lose to anyone today, I'm glad it's her. But not all friendships can handle the strain of competition. Take Pete Sampras and Andre Agassi, two rivals who dominated men's tennis before the era of Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. Their rivalry had almost no warmth. Agassi even wrote in his autobiography, Open, that Sampras was tight with money. This awkward tension played out on the court and continued off it even at charity events. When Sampras impersonated Agassi at a charity match, Agassi fired back, teasing him about his frugality. The interaction was uncomfortable for everyone, showing how competition can spill over into personal relationships. While some friendships like Keys and Stephens can endure these high-pressure moments, others like Agassi and Sampras show that rivalry can sometimes break the bond entirely. This brings us back to the present day with players like Aryna Sabalenka and Paula Badosa, who describe each other as soulmates. They vacation together and have been inseparable since they first bonded at an event in Los Angeles 3 years ago. But even with their deep friendship, it can be tested on the court. When they met in the French Open, Sabalenka won 7-5, 6-1, and the match was strictly business. Only the warm hug they shared at the net revealed how close they truly are. What's interesting is how friendships don't always affect the intensity of the match. Both Sabalenka and Badosa know they can separate their relationship from the game. And after the match, Badosa said, "We are opponents on court, but we are always going to be friends." For some players, like Sabalenka and Badosa, the key to maintaining their friendship is learning how to separate the personal from the professional. When friends face off in high-stakes tennis matches, it's never just about the game. It's a delicate balancing act between maintaining a personal bond and chasing your professional dreams. Imagine being in Taylor Fritz's shoes. You're up against your best friend, Frances Tiafoe, in the US Open semifinals. Both of you want to win, but only one can move on. How do you handle that? Tommy Paul, another mutual friend of Fritz and Tiafoe, summed it up well. "I hate playing them in the first or second round. But playing semis or finals of a big tournament, that's what we dreamed about since we were young." The fascinating part of these matchups is that they bring both awkwardness and excitement. Fritz and Tiafoe's friendship has survived the test, but matches like these leave a lasting impact. Fritz, who is more reserved, finds it tough to play someone he's close to. Tiafoe, the more extroverted of the two, tries to lighten the mood, joking that Fritz was an odd cat when they first met. But deep down, both know that when they step on the court, it's business. In the end, friendship in tennis faced unique challenges. The sport demands that you set aside personal connections to focus on the match. Some friendships survive and thrive, while others fade away under the pressure of competition. For Fritz and Tiafoe, the semifinals clash at the US Open was a reminder that while tennis can test even the closest of friendships, it can also make them stronger.